On the air, and thank you everybody for joining us for another episode of your favorite Third Avenue Playhouse interview show, Tap Talks, with me, Bob Boles, the co-artistic director at the Third Avenue Playhouse. And today I have the very great pleasure of introducing to all of you six, including myself, 6 of the 7 directors for our hashtag Enough project Plays to End Gun Violence that we are premiering next Monday night at 7 o'clock. So please mark that on your calendars, and we'll tell you a little later how to register to see the readings. They're absolutely free. You just need to register for them. So for those of you who are not familiar with the hashtag Enough project, a wonderful actor, director named Michael Cody, who is in Chicago right now, created this nationwide project where he asked middle and high school students to write 10-minute plays, short plays, on the theme of gun violence, and just put it out there around the country. Got I don't know how many submissions from everywhere. He enlisted some of the finest American playwrights, Lauren Gunderson, David Henry Wang, and oh my God, I always trip up his name. Is it Terrell?
Terrell McCraney.
Terrell McCraney, yeah, an amazing playwright. Everybody saw the movie Moonlight, and I saw this wonderful play called Choir Boy a couple of years ago. Anyway, an amazing group of playwrights to go through all the submissions, and they picked 7 plays from all these many submissions, and those are the ones that we are presenting on a reading that is happening simultaneously with other theaters and civic organizations, not only all over this country, but also in Germany, India, and South Africa, all at 7 o'clock, December 14th, next Monday, which is the anniversary, unfortunately, I like to say, but it was the anniversary of the Sandy Hook shootings that happened 8 years ago, and so these readings are happening on a very important evening to highlight this very, very important issue of gun violence. We were charged here at Third Avenue Playhouse when we got involved. I was approached by Michael Cody about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, to be part of this project. I immediately said yes. And so it was going to be an in-person live reading, as most of our readings are, or all of them are up till now. And of course the pandemic changed all of that, so everything became virtual. And that has been somewhat of a blessing for this project, because as it turned out, we would have been really hard pressed to cast these plays exactly as they needed to be cast, just simply because we'd have to bring up any number of people to do this, and then it becomes the budget issue and all that. We couldn't be able to afford that. So, but being virtual, we can go anywhere. So we have gone to 9 states to present these plays. I believe we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 states here represented right now in this call. So I can just stop talking for a moment. Let me just get every one of you just to introduce yourself and tell us a little something about yourself, because I think you're unfamiliar. I think Michael Wright, you can start. You're the most familiar face here. So introduce yourself, Michael.
I'm Michael Wright. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, lived in New York City for 12 years as an actor. My partner and I moved to Milwaukee in 1988. We wanted to try a middle-sized city, and we fell in love with Milwaukee, and we were there for, 30 plus years. We have now retired. Before we retired, I was running Milwaukee Chamber Theater for 15 years. I was the artistic director there. And Ray, my partner, was the artistic director at Skylight Music Theater. But now we're retired as of June 1st. I am retired. Ray had a year before me. And then we moved up to Sturgeon Bay this summer. So this project was kind of perfect timing for me because Michael Cody's an old friend and actually a protege of mine. I knew him when he was still a student and slowly nurtured him as a director. And now he's not only an actor, director, he's a producer. So it's very exciting for me to be part of this project.
Excellent. And exciting for me as well. And Michael is also on our board of directors.
All right. I am.
Well, which we're very, very proud to have you. Malkia.
Hey, so I'm Malkia Stampley. I was born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I currently live in Brooklyn, New York. As of last year, although I spent most of this year in Milwaukee, protecting our family from COVID and trying to at least. And my husband, Chike Johnson, is also an actor. So we're a full artist family, and I love Milwaukee theater. I only went to Door County for the first time in my life last year. I went to go visit a friend who was performing at Northern Sky, and so I got to see their performances and check it out. I going to school in Whitefish Bay, but as a Chapter 220 kid, which was an effort to integrate the schools, I always heard about going up north. What is this Door County? And my whole life had never been. And I just thought it was for a particular kind of folk. And so I finally went and I was like, oh my gosh, this place is beautiful. And so it's been great to work with Third Avenue Playhouse, although virtually, and I hope that one day I can go back to Door County. So thank you so much, Bob, for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here.
You're certainly welcome, and not spoiler alert, but at full disclosure, Malkia and I met. I don't know. It was.
Oh man.
I don't know how old you were. Were 14?
I was 16. 16. Yes. A long time ago.
in the 90s, when I was hired to come down to the Madison Rep and do a production of Little Shop of Horrors. And yes. And I don't think I've seen you. I've seen you once since then.
Yes.
In Milwaukee Generals, many, many moons later.
So Bob has the most beautiful legs a man could possibly have. When he puts on, he has the tights, like at the end when the dentist, whoever's playing the dentist, usually then plays all of these characters at the end. And man, it was just such a treat seeing those legs and him playing the dentist is one of my most fondest memories ever of all time.
Well, thank you. And legs are still here, and you're perfectly invited anytime to come look at them. I don't even know why that came out of my mouth. Marie, let's move on. Marie.
I don't know how I can top that, but my name is Marie Treadway. I'm an actor, director based in both the Chicago and Milwaukee areas. I went back to school later on in life to get my theater degree in Kenosha at Carthage College, and that opportunity opened up Wisconsin theater for me. I never knew that there was even that industry up there. And so I got a chance to be able to work with Michael, directing a playwrights festival for Milwaukee Chamber. And Adam and I have worked together before. So I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be directing again because I've only been predominantly acting. I'm recurring on Chicago Med, and so it's nice to kind of get back to the creative side and fuel another passion of mine, particularly through this pandemic, which I haven't been able to do yet. So I'm grateful to be here.
As I am with all of you guys. Adam,
Hi, I'm Adam Kudashat. I, like Michael, grew up in Buffalo, New York, and then got transplanted into central Wisconsin, where I did my schooling in high school and college, and then ended up in the suburbs of Milwaukee. My degree is in music education, so I was teaching music for a few years, and then left that field and ended up stumbling into the theater world, and I have not looked back. So I'm sort of multidisciplinary. I do acting, directing, writing, producing, lighting design, sound design, composing, all sorts of stuff. It has been a great delight to dust off my directing chops, because it had been since prior to the pandemic, since the last time I had been able to direct anything. So this has been truly a lovely experience.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And last, certainly not least, cookies.
Hi, I'm Cookies for Bleddo, and I was born and raised and currently in Houston, Texas. That's how I got involved in theater. It's kind of a interesting story. So I went to Duke for undergrad, and I ended up majoring in psychology, but I remember I was getting very burnt out with the classes, so I took my first improvisation class at Duke, and that class just completely changed my life. Like, I learned all about how to, speak up, self-confidence, the concept of lizard brain, and I just had a really incredible mentor in that class. And then ever since then, just theater, I just kind of continued on that path. I ended up, after I graduated, I went and got my master's degree in interactive media from Elon, but then I returned to Durham, North Carolina to do some work at Duke. And during that time, my former mentor, he has a theater company called Little Green Pigs Theatrical Concern. And so he asked if I wanted to be a part of it. And I was like, well, yeah, the fact that I get to do theater again with all these people that, I got to work with in the past. And then I ended up being the managing director for that company for a bit. And then now I'm currently back in Houston, and I just recently finished up my first ever Zoom show back in, was I think last month, and that was a very interesting experience. Like, I didn't know how Zoom theater was going to work, and we did 3 shows, and it was a lot of like background with the tech, but it was such an incredible experience and great to really just get back in it. And then how I got involved with this project was a very good friend of mine, Ryan Shabak, who most of you guys probably know. I've known him for I think about 10 years because he comes to Houston to perform as Buttons in Panto, and so we just became really good friends. And he ended up seeing my show, my Zoom show that I did last month, and he, pitched this opportunity, and I was like, well, I haven't directed anything yet, but I want to give this a shot. And so I thank you, Bob, for giving me the opportunity, and this has just been such an amazing learning experience.
Oh,
It's just been
it's
so fun
been
to
great
do.
having
I'm just
you,
happy to
and
be here.
we thank Ryan for bringing you our way at all. Our audiences up here will know Ryan Schaubuck from his work here at Art TAF and also at Door Shakespeare. He's worked up here a lot. So we like Ryan a lot, and anybody Ryan likes, we like too. So thank you. And the only one missing in this group is Isaiah Spetz, who a lot of you I know. He's a Door County native and wonderful, wonderful actor. And he is currently in his senior year at NYU, and he just couldn't get out of he's doing some online classes, as many people are right now, and he couldn't get out of one of them to do this interview. So we will miss him, but he's an incredible, very talented young man that I've been working with. I think since he was in the 8th grade. So I feel very protective and almost paternal, or maybe totally paternal. Although he's got wonderful parents, doesn't need me. But he's a great guy, and so I wish he could be here today, but he cannot. But you will see his work and hopefully he'll be joining us for the Facebook Live talkback after the readings on Monday. So Cookies brought up something that I wanted to ask all of you. The Zoom experience, working with virtually like this in rehearsals and doing the recorded readings and all of that. Could sound like you've had a bit of experience with that. Have the rest of you, and what experiences have you had with it? And was it difficult for you? Was it easy? How was the transition into Zoom for any of you?
I'll go first. I certainly do a lot of this. Before I left Milwaukee and the job at Milwaukee Chamber Theater, we had turned to Zoom staff meetings every morning. In terms of creating art, I find it incredibly challenging because you're dealing with all these technical issues. You've got everyone and their own internet strength, and you have sound issues and lighting issues, and people are constantly freezing and being out of sync, and it's hard. It's very, very hard to trust and maintain some sort of consistency. But I also love the challenge. I feel like anybody in the theater is in the theater because they love challenge. It's never easy. It's always hard to get a job. So I think anybody that does this understands that you do your best. You try to hit 100% and you get as far as you can.
Oh, exactly. And Malkia, this was a family affair for you, the play you directed for #Enough. So you had an advantage over all of us.
I did. I really I did, and it was wonderful. This summer I founded with a few others the Milwaukee Black Theater Festival, and we had to be 100% virtual and and then also producing supplemental material, some on location, others submitted. It was a big ordeal. So I was. It was a lot. It's a lot. All the challenges that Michael, certainly mentioned, the timing of things, if there are overlapping lines, but then also just as a performer as well, you just want to touch somebody, or you just, if you could like go through that lens, you would, all of those things. And what I learned throughout all of that, and I got a chance to direct a few other things as well, full production of The Mountaintop for APT, which was very technically challenging. But I've realized that just focusing on the words really, really helped me as a director, because it just took off so much pressure. Letting the audience already knows we're in a little bitty box. So they're okay. We don't need to try and do anything. We do what we can, and we want to keep challenging ourselves, absolutely. But that's what I learned. And so with that, once I realized or accepted this position, which I was so excited to do, I was like, okay, well, how can I make this even easier for myself? And it was working with my husband and my daughter, my oldest daughter. And working with your child can be, its own thing. But I love her. I do. But it was great. It was great. I've gotten a chance to direct her in Black Nativity for a couple years in the past, in my directorial debut. So she is a really important part of that. And then my husband and I, we don't get to work a lot together. So getting to do that just, it was fun. It was great. I mean, the challenging part was we're in Brooklyn. And so in New York, you can imagine our apartment is not very large. And so someone had to be in the laundry room, and we had to stuff coats under the door. And then someone had to be, as far away as we could from the other, which only meant 25 feet. So, but we got through it. John, the technical director or production manager, he was fantastic and walked us through everything. So I was really grateful for him and his guidance.
Yeah, and it turned out beautifully.
Good.
Yeah. Wait till you see this. And so yeah, it is very challenging. Anybody else have any Zoom stories you'd like to relate?
Well, I had some experience because I write and produce and direct podcasts, and we'd been picked up by a podcast network that wanted to do a video component to it. So we were filming in a studio. So I had some experience directing that sort of stuff, and we transitioned to virtual once the pandemic hit. The problem that I had was I was not prepared from a hardware standpoint. I finally, 9 months in, just finally committed to buying a new computer. But I know that, like, from a very early point in the pandemic, I found out very quickly that I did not have the hardware to handle the pandemic's demands of Zoom recordings and live streaming and all that stuff. And because I didn't have the hardware, then I didn't have the money to purchase the hardware. So it was a bit of a catch-22 that I finally I managed to get a grant, and I'm going to be able to upgrade my equipment. But I've slowly been, because I'm an audio person, so I have all of the audio equipment, but the video stuff, that have slowly been cobbling that together over the last few months.
Who knew a year ago we'd have to think about things like post-production. I mentioned to somebody the other day, and maybe one of you, that post-production to me was going out to a bar after the show, and now it's something entirely different. So what has this experience working with these plays in particular been like for you? They're so radically different takes on the theme of gun violence. I mean, they're like snowflakes. No two are alike at all. They come from very different points of view. These 7 very talented young women who put these together. What did you respond to personally in these plays? Because I asked you all to I gave you the list and asked you to pick your favorites, and hopefully you all got your top choices. But what about the plays in this project did you respond to the most? Don't all talk at once. I can only tell for myself personally. This has been a subject matter for me that I have been dealing with theatrically, at least, for the last decade or so. I've directed now 2 productions of a play called Columbinus, which dealt with the Columbine High School shootings, and they were transcripts of eyewitnesses, and it was a sort of a Laramie Project type piece, extremely powerful. And I worked with it with some college students in Connecticut, and then when I came to Door County, I worked with high school students, which of course the entire play is about high school students, and it was a really, really powerful piece. And I remember one evening in Connecticut that really brought it home to me was that we had at the end of the show gobos, which projected the names of the students that were killed in the library at Columbine. And afterwards, some kid came up to me and he was crying, and he asked to see the cast, and I said sure. And he pointed to one name up there and he says, "That was my friend. That was my friend." And he sort of, between sobs, briefly told the story and left. And once he left, I was going, oh my God, that kid, first of all, didn't have to come see this show in the first place. Certainly didn't have to come tell us that. But it just showed that not only the power of that piece, but the power of theater. You never know who's watching, and you never know whose lives you're touching at any given moment, whether you're doing a slapstick comedy or something like these. So that's when Michael Cody called me to do this. I didn't hesitate a second. to be a part of it.
I'd say for me, what really resonated with me was the fact that it was written by students. You see a lot of different programming or content um, on TV or wherever you're watching that are dealing with some of these issues, and sometimes through the eyes of children. But to have it written by children, I thought was extremely empowering. I hope for them, and it helped me as an adult, as a mom, as a teaching artist. It helped me with perspective, and it really helped me to um, remember it's for them, it's about them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about my piece in particular, what drew me to that piece, was how my playwright was able to just bring in so much fun and bring in. She took you on this roller coaster of emotion, but at the center of it was this playfulness, this young girl just wanting to play, and in playing wanting to be strong and powerful, and this queen, and going through her rites of passage. And uh, oh, it just I love that part about it, because no matter how each of these stories end, I feel that they just all empower each of the characters, and any student that is a potential writer or a writer or has an opportunity to tell a story as well.
Yeah, beautifully said. Yeah, Adam.
As somebody who's throughout my life had various experiences at various levels with gun violence, as I mentioned before, I was a teacher. I worked in law enforcement at certain points in my life, and just in general, have known people directly and have myself been directly impacted by gun violence. Thankfully, I've never lost anyone to gun violence, but even as recently as since this project started, there was a shooting at the Mayfair Mall in Wauwatosa, which is in the Milwaukee area, and I knew people who were there that day who were impacted by that shooting. Like this is immediate for every one of us, and I want to echo what Malkia said about the fact that this is written by children. That this directly impacts them, and you can see through their writing their perspective on this. They know this is what they're living through every day at school. And having been a teacher, my particular piece is about a teacher and students, and it really spoke to me. It was just the genuine nature of, I saw so much of what I went through and what my students went through when I was teaching in the schools, and just the nature of what our society has created in terms of a situation that breeds these situations, and I really felt like this was a way to restart conversations that should be continuing, because this is something that needs to change for these students. Not just for those of us directing or those of us acting, but for the students that wrote this, and the hundreds of students who submitted and were not selected for this. It's just so important that we protect them and we take care of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I think as a mom of two young girls, and then one, in school age, and them having to practice lockdown drills this past year, that started the last year, and her not understanding why, it's come full circle for me, because 9/11, like Columbine, all of that happened when I was in high school, and so now seeing it through the eyes of my child has really, really opened a lot of conversation with her. And so attaching myself to this project has really helped with that, talking to her, and her fears and my fears has been a catharsis for all of us. But what drew me to the play that I'm directing, Together by Aja Lyons, was the women in the play in just 10 minutes. Aja managed to make these characters full-fleshed and have hope and potential, and it was women I felt like I grew up with back in the Bay Area, in Vallejo. Like, I knew these women. Like, one was my god sister, one was like my best friend, and so talking with her, I got a chance to talk with her during the rehearsal process, and she said she just started to write about what would happen if it was her and her friends. And I got that right away. She made these characters so tangible, so human, and it's been a really, really special process. Not only getting to work with her play, but getting to work with four women of color that comprise my main cast, and then another woman of color who's reading my stage directions. To do that has been really, really amazing as a woman of color myself, to work on this play and this project. So.
Yeah, it's beautifully done. It's as all. I mean, I haven't seen yours yet, Cookies. I have no doubt that is going to be just as wonderful as the ones I have seen and done. It's just people just put so much of themselves into these plays that it does kind of burst through the Zoom screen, so to speak. But so anybody, I don't know, what anything particular in rehearsal that surprised you at all?
For me, was what during our first initial read through. One of the things that I had my cast do was to think back when they were in high school, because a lot of them were in the early 20s, but to kind of think back about, their experience with the discussion around gun violence. And, my play, Loaded Language, talks about, how certain, phrases or what people say can essentially trigger that anxiety that, oh, a shooting is about to happen. And, how, though people may be nonchalant about the language that they use, it's important that people realize like how much that can trigger others, how much that can trigger classmates and friends. And so I remember one of my actresses, she talked about how it was like a similar experience in that in her high school, it was more like they knew of certain people or of a specific person that said, oh, if someone is going to shoot up the school, it would be this person. But she talked about how everyone was so nonchalant about it, and how, it was almost as if that was the norm. And she talked about how that really struck her, and how she really resonated with that, in this piece, and how, it's so important to educate people on just how words are so powerful, and how they can just really affect our emotional well-being. So, and similarly with all the other cast members, they were able to resonate similar experiences with, their lives with this play. So I had them tap into that during the whole process. And especially so the way my play is broken up is that the first and the last scene are very much like monologue scenes with each castmate. And you can really, really see not just the character's personality come through, but also their own individual personalities shine, and just their experience. So I was really proud of what they, how they were able to interpret this piece as well. And the fact that the turnaround time was so fast. So I was just very, very proud of the work that they've done.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the turnaround time has been fast. I've found with readings in particular, that they're usually done rather quickly. And when you get a good group of people together, and of course they've had some time to look at the script, of course, beforehand, but just hearing their first instincts, their first impressions, it's really fascinating to see. I mean, if you'd worked on it longer, perhaps you'd refine a lot of what you've done, throw out some things, add some other. You would do all that, but I love that really strong first impression that good actors will give to material. Okay, we only have this much time to work on it. What can we do in this time? And it's I've always enjoyed that part of. I love doing readings for that reason. Uh, I'm really impressed by like I said, the just the level of I don't know, expertise is the only word I can think of these playwrights. Jealous as well too. Just structurally, the dialogue in Together. I told her, it was she just had these women spot on in terms of each of them. Just dialogue can be so difficult, especially when you're just dealing with different particular people that could, in other hands, they would all just sound alike. And in her play, no. I mean, they have the same vernacular and ways of expressing themselves, but they're all individuals. And then when they, toward the end of the play, when they're making a phone call and suddenly they're talking to someone else, suddenly the way they speak changes in order to talk to somebody outside of their group, which was a simple thing, but it's just was a nice touch. But we have two plays, Adam's plays and Cookie's plays, both take place in a school situation from different points of view. Michael's play is Malcolm is pretty much a Rashomon type thing where you have different unconnected people telling the story of this one young man, and Malkia's is this, I wouldn't call it what is it? It's a father and daughter.
Yeah, fantastical. It's definitely the strong imagination the lead character has. Yeah, it's fun. It's when you get to build your not build but imagining your ideal playmate. Who is that? And then you have your playmate, and your playmate is helping you on this journey, and then not, and then the audience maybe realizing or questioning who is this playmate, and what is the importance of this playmate, and all of that. It's I love my piece, and I didn't, initially, I just thought it was fun. I thought it was something that I always love seeing my husband acting silly because he's usually cast as, Walter Lee, Othello, all these like really dramatic people, and I love to see him let loose. So that was endearing. But it wasn't until we were in the middle of rehearsal and realizing, so my character chose her dad to be this ideal playmate or someone who looks like her dad, then it just made it so much more sweet. And I didn't even realize that maybe, that character, Toucan, could have been a woman or, any other eccentric character, but it spoke to me for those two, and they just look so cute together.
Yes, they do. And Marie's play Together. I mean, it's just four young women in a very ordinary, common, celebratory situation. And then the play that I worked on, Hullabaloo, sees the issue of gun violence is through the eyes of a Buffalo Bill-like tent show, where Ryan Shawbuck becomes Buffalo Bill, and he's got two assistants, and it's all about entertainment and all this stuff, and it basically gives a short history of America's love for guns in 10 minutes, and I'm really impressed. I'm a big champion of new play development, and doing that, I spent a lot of time working for the Kennedy Center College Theater Festival in their new play division, going around the country, listening to the work of student playwrights, and it's a real big passion of mine, and we are working to have our own new play development portion of what TAP does here. Little by little, we've done little things, and we hope to make it even bigger later on. I have to mention because this is really important. Everybody listening to the sound of my voice, that all of these wonderful people, all of these actors, the playwrights, everybody has been volunteering their time and their efforts and their talents toward this project. And that is no small thing. That is absolutely no small thing. And I know Michael Cody is over the moon about all of you and everybody else around the country working on this project. But I think he's particularly, he knows a lot of you and knows of your work and respects and loves you all. So this in particular is a little closer to him. And to me personally, this is the fact that all of you have taken the time to do this means a great deal. And so I hope everybody, please watch these plays on Monday night at 7 o'clock. You simply have to register by going to our website, thirdavenueplayhouse.com, and just register. Just put in your name and email address, and we'll send you a link to the readings. And then right after the readings, we will have a Facebook Live talkback with hopefully all of these people, whoever can make it, the cast and directors. It'll be somewhere around 8:30, right after the readings are finished, and we'll get a chance to chat with all of them. You'll get a chance to ask any questions to them you might have after this, and so this has been just a really wonderful experience all the way around for us, and believe me, especially in this pandemic time, to be able to. I mean, it's an important subject and not always, it's a somber subject and all that, but we're all working on our craft. We are doing what theater does best and relaying a message in theatrical terms, telling stories about things that matter and touch people's lives, and that has been one of the bright spots in this whole Annibus Horribus, or whatever Queen Elizabeth has called it. Annus Horribilis, James tells me. Anything else from anybody? Just any observations? Anything you'd like to say before we chime off here at all?
Well, I just wanted to say really quickly how, going off what you said, I cast the show, non-traditionally. I kind of reached out to 4 Black women that I've either worked with or have wanted to work with, and they all graciously said yes, and they were in. And then reading the play, I asked them who they resonated with the most, and not miraculously, I'm sure it was lined up somewhere to where they all picked a different person. And I think it reflects in the work that we did that they all kind of resonated with their character, and we just produced something. I think that's really, really special, and I hope everybody gets to see how special it is too. And I'm really excited for everybody to see it. I think the biggest thing, the theme that I'm seeing here is that gun violence just doesn't. Of course, it affects the victim, but what the most tragic thing is, it affects so everybody. If it was somebody that 7 degrees of separation, or if it was somebody that was super close to the person who's passed because of it, it just affects everybody. And it's so important for us to bring this to light, and we're so thankful to show that through our work. So thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Anybody else? Any final words?
One thing I want to say is that the writing is so smart.
Yeah.
And each of the pieces has its own voice. So it's such an honor to just empower these young people and let them know that we're listening. We hear you. I think that's the most important thing for me. yes, the issue is so important, but also young people speaking up and encouraging them and giving them a platform is critical in order to move forward as a society. So I just applaud this project. I think it's so wonderful.
It is really wonderful. Yeah, Adam.
I think one of the great things about a project of a collection of short plays is that it gives us a chance to not only hear from diverse voices, as Michael said, and they're all they all have such a clear point of view and perspective on the world that we wouldn't otherwise gather, but a diverse group of directors and a diverse group of actors across all sorts of religions, races, cultures, ages. I mean, there is something that you can learn about all sorts of people in each one of these short plays, and you get 7 of them in an hour and a half. And I think it's so incredibly important to listen to those perspectives on this thing, because you may go in expecting something, but when you listen to all 7 of these, I guarantee you will find a new perspective that you weren't aware of.
Yeah. And Michael is absolutely right. The voices of these young women, and it's so encouraging to see their work, and hopefully they'll inspire others to do the same. When I spoke to them all, I said, if I was 16, 17 years old and I get an email or a phone call saying David Henry Wang, Lauren Gunderson has picked my play to do, you would have to scrape me off the ceiling, and I would have been shouting and been hoarse for months after that, and the expressions on their faces told me that that's exactly what happened with them. So it's just thrilling that they were given this opportunity. And my sincerest wish for Michael Cody was that I hope that he's able to continue, and I think he is going to continue next year. So watch this space for information about that, because I would love to see as many Door County students participate in this as possible. But my more sincere wish is that he will have to stop doing this project, because there will be no more need for something like this. We're not there yet, so until then, we will press on with projects like this. So again, please join us Monday night, 7 o'clock, December 14th. Register thirdavenueplayhouse.com and see the work of these wonderful people and these wonderful cast of actors who have again have contributed their time and talents toward this project. So thank you all for being here on yet another episode of Tap Talks with your faithful host, me. And we will see you all next time. So long for now, everyone. Wave to the people.